Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is Bryan CP Steele, and I will be your nerd today, and every other day that you watch my show, or go to my TikTok, or my Twitter, or anything else that I happen to be gracing the electronic universe with on, maybe. I don't know. So, let's start things off with the week in Bryan, because that's what we generally do here. It's been a good week. It's going to be a fantastic week at the end of the week. But right now, let's see. It's been solid. Making super good progress on the Shadowrun novel. Knowing that I kind of hit that sort of when I was dealing with the spider bite issue a few weeks back. I was 100% 100% stymied as far as like the amount of work I was getting done. I stalled out something fierce. It was a trickle of words here and there. But that has ended, and things are moving quick. I am excited to wrap up this novel because I want to get it closer to being out there in the world for people to read. But also, I already have started jotting down general ideas for the next one that Catalyst is having me do, which should be a lot of fun. So... Awesome. Let's see. Last week I got to play my D&D game where I'm playtesting my crazy dancing cat monk. And in typical fashion, based on the randomness of the dice, which again, as a third level character, you have to kind of go with the flow, so to speak. No pun intended. But the dice were real swingy for my character. I'd go from one round having an armor class of like 12 to the following round having like a 23 or 24. It is still what I would consider to be the weakness of the class, is that it is so dicey. But I wouldn't call it a weakness overall, because there's been several instances where, as a third level character, I've got an AC higher than anybody else in the group because I'm getting my dance on and the dice fell the right way. I mean, obviously there are more ways for me to maximize stuff on the character, and as he gains gains levels and goes further on, I'll be able to even take feats that might even make that roll better. So we'll see. Again, that's kind of what the playtest is all about. So far, it seems very, very fair for a third level character to be doing what I'm doing. I'm not dishing out bazillion points of damage like some people's classes that I've seen, and I'm not flinging spells 4 or 5 levels out of my class range. So. So far, so good, and pretty happy about that. Let's see, what else for the week in Bryan? Had an awesome meeting with Alex from Resnova yesterday about Warzone stuff. I can't get into the nitty-gritty of it, but we have moved forward with a few decisions that the playtesters are helping us with, but also business decisions on the back end as far as like getting some models made, figuring out weapon options on models and things like that. So a lot of cool stuff there. So there's more forward progression. Hopefully soonish I'll be able to maybe show off some models to you guys, which would be awesome. The other thing that I can't say yet because we want to be able to unveil it when it is done, but his graphic artist finished the name and the logo, so I'm excited to be able to reveal that to everyone when we can. I know there's a bit on the Warzone fan group on Facebook. There's a huge post about people trying to guess what the name of the game is going to be, the official name of the game. So I'll be excited when we can, you know, pull the covers back and go show you what we've made. It's super fun. I mean, I'm excited. I'm really jazzed. Speaking of Warzone related things, I know a lot of you guys specifically listen to me for Warzone stuff. I officially have begun. You know, when we were doing the building of the main rule set, I was not instructed but asked to be frugal in how many things I was going to design out of the gate. You know, so how many things for each faction, how many factions. You know, because we didn't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, and it is better to have a smaller sample to test your rules with than to jump in with both feet and hope that you can swim. So that was nice to hear back from the playtesters that things are going well, and that Alex went ahead and said, hey, maybe it's a good idea for us to expand some of the stuff that we're designing to make sure that our system works outside of the initial bubble too. So here pretty soon, when I lighten my load a little bit, I'm going to be able to dive back into unit design, which is always fun. I have a blast with unit design for multiple reasons, not the short of which is getting to make subtle changes to how something functions, to keep it within the narrative of what they do and what they are as far as the story is concerned, but to also make it new and flavorful for the game. So that way, if somebody has been playing Warzone for a really long time and goes, oh, I know these guys, my job is for them to go, oh, I know these guys. Wait, what can they do? That's cool. I want them to be excited about some of the things that they may already know, but now they function a little differently without breaking the canon. You know, obviously I don't want, you know, to, if this unit was a bunch of stealth assassins, the last thing I want to do is be like, well, this time they've got heavy machine guns. You know, like, that's silly. Or if it's somebody who, you know, has been notoriously just the, you know, scum of the earth grunts, you know, dime a dozen, the last thing we want to do is turn them into super elite soldiers. So there's ways to cook new information into the canon, into the units, into how they play in our new game without invalidating and ultimately screwing with the existing canon. Maybe a tiny tweak here and there, but tweak as in this could also be the case, not I never want to do something where it's like, well, this happened instead of. I never want to erase someone else's canon if I'm working within their IP. I would much rather add to it or give alternate canon, as long as it doesn't invalidate the first. And that's kind of where I'm at now with several of the new units. And Alex and I sat down in our meeting yesterday, and we really kind of went through a lot of sort of the units as when we expect they would get released in a timely fashion, knowing how big Res Nova is and knowing the resources. And, you know, now mind you, when we do the Kickstarter for it, if it blows the doors off the barn and does just bazillions of dollars, I'm sure he's going to probably go, okay, we need to rethink a little bit of this. But at this time and at this place in where we're at, we're being more I don't want to say frugal, that's not the right word, more realistic with how things are going to be going. But I will say this, I am having a ton of fun figuring out how to make the Wolfsbanes all different and all cool. But it's super fun, because I dig the hell out of the Wolfsbanes for the Imperial faction. So All right, so there's that. Let's see, what else? What else? What else? Oh, my as yet unnamed miniature game that I'm working with with another company, currently kind of blocked apart. Those rules are coming along fantastically, and earlier this week, I had kind of a sort of a epiphany moment about how something needed to be able to handle in that game, because of how things are designed, like the technology level of what we're dealing with. Um, and I am eager to throw some proxies around and test that system to see if it works like I think it's going to, because it is. I think it's going to be one of the things that makes it stand out as its own game. So it's not just, oh, here's another sci-fi game. Oh, here's another, this level of game. Oh, here's another one of these. Hopefully that mechanic that kind of popped into my brain earlier this week, will be one of the things that makes people go, that game does, that's the game that does blank. So I hate being vague. I wish I could tell you more, but legally I can't. So I just have to tell you that I'm very excited that it is coming along like it is, and I do believe that the client is going to be very happy with it as well. Yeah, so that's pretty much my week, and then tomorrow I've got more D&D with the dancing cat monk. And then this weekend's actually pretty. Normally, I set aside my weekend to get a lot of work done, but I'm not going to get a chance to this weekend. On Saturday, one of my wife's best friends is having her bridal shower, and while I am not super keen on going when I've got so much to do, it should be a nice time. They're good people. I love them. And they are thankfully doing it very, very smart. It's an outdoor event, masks, social distancing. So we're being safe. And honestly, I already told Natalie that if I get there and it is the opposite, and I'm putting any of my friends or family or kids in danger because of how things are being handled, we're gone. It's just how it is, and until there is more medical research and backup and possible leads to vaccines and things, that's pretty much how I have to handle just about everything. I've got too much riding on my being healthy and my kids being healthy, and my son goes back and forth to his mom's house. She is sadly a very dedicated smoker and also asthmatic, so a respiratory illness that would get into that house would be awful. So it's just a precaution that we have to take. Hopefully it'll be a good time and everyone will play by the rules. But like I said, I was very specific that if I get there and it's sketchy, I'm outie. And then on Sunday I am so excited. We're taking the family up to see my parents. It's been a minute or two since we've seen them. They live a few hours away. They've been doing really good as far as like the social distancing, and they don't, they're retired. They don't really see many people anyway. But we talk a lot on the phone, and very recently my stepfather, who is basically has been my dad for as long as I can remember. He came into my life I think when I was 8 or 9. And he had some medical medical issues that were kind of scary, and he seems to be through. He's made it through. Everything's great, and the doctor has kind of greenlit him for possibly having close family and whatever to come see him. So and he's home, so it's not even a hospital thing. So we're gonna get to go up there, and we're gonna have like a nice little dinner. The kids will probably play in the backyard. My mom lives my parents' house is on a couple of acres, so it'll be nice. It's gonna be a kind of a laid back weekend. I wish I could get some more work done. I know I sound like such a workaholic, but I do think that it will be nice to take a breather and just kind of see the world a little bit, get out of these four walls, quit breathing this canned studio air, and more importantly, spend a little time with the family. So that's basically my week. Except for I think I mentioned last week that I did some voiceover lines for a voice acting gig. I got a part in the gig. And either tonight or tomorrow night, I'm going to be recording all my voiceover stuff. So it'll be pretty cool. I'm excited. Some of the people that I'm working with in this, they have been in other gamer-related movies and things. And so I'm happy. And when it comes out, I'm sure I'm going to tell everybody, look at this, look what I did. It's been a while since I've had a voice acting gig. They're fun. I love them. I wish I could do more. I wish I could do more for things like cartoons and video games and things. But there is a pretty stiff market for that. There's a lot of people out there that do it professionally all of the time, and I would never want to take away someone else's livelihood. But if something fell in my lap, that would be awesome. But yeah, aside from that, that's my week. A lot of work, a little bit of playtime, some good news, lots of headway on different designs. It's just been a solid week. Nobody's sick in the house. Everybody seems to be doing okay. Yeah, it's a good time was had by all. All right, so. Which brings us to the topic of today, which goes hand in hand with my T-shirt, which I gotta say, so Armor Class 10, the sponsor, my apparel sponsor for the show, I order my T-shirts and stuff. I basically say, hey, these are the shirts that I would dig to have on the show for various reasons. When I chose this one, I liked the fact that it's a D20 yin yang, good versus evil. 1 versus 20, that sort of thing. And so I went ahead and ordered it. It is not just a cool t-shirt, it's kind of like an athletic, almost like a jersey material. I was not expecting that. I was expecting it to just be another t-shirt, but it is in fact more of a almost like a workout shirt. Which is cool. I mean, I dig it. It's lightweight. It's breathing really nice for me. Again, I'm totally just giving these guys a check it out. But it was the reason for it was because of the logo, because I wanted to be able to do something about balance. And I've done an episode before where it was balancing your life, where it was about you can only have so much. So much playtime, so much work time, so much sleep, so much. Like you've got to have all these things in balance as a freelancer. What I want to talk about today is more about when you're because I've been doing so much game design lately, that I want to talk about the balance within game design. What that generally means, what balance in game design, at least it means to me. I mean, I'm not gonna pull up some kind of weird definition or anything. A balanced game design means that it is equal parts fun to strategy to tactics. It does what it's supposed to. It does what it says on the box. It takes care of all these things. what the game balance within the game means is that you don't have certain game elements that are just unbelievably better or worse. And if they do, there's got to be some kind of balancing factor, some kind of equalization as to if it's crazy powerful, then it needs to have, maybe it's harder to get, or maybe it costs more, or maybe it's taxing to your resources in a different way. If it's all, you know, fluff and candy coating, then probably doesn't cost that much. Maybe even makes it easier for you to do other things, because in and of itself, that particular asset is not that big of not that big of a game changer. And I think game balance is also, it changes based on the game, because everything is relative. It really, really is. Someone had said once before is that in a game where everything's broken, nothing is. And that's too true. If you are designing a game and everything in the game is over the top, every single model has like 15 dice to throw on everything you do, and they can move all the way across the board and every single time, or in a board game, every character is the coolest thing that they possibly could be in their field, as long as you keep that balanced between everybody, and there isn't like one character that stands out as, well, this guy's terrible, or this guy's too good. As long as that's not the case, then you've met your balance level. And the part of the reason why I wanted to bring up balance is because, again, I'm doing all this design stuff right now, talking about how to balance these troops, how to balance units, how to balance individual rules to make sure that this particular rule isn't the kind of thing that, like, someone reads and goes, well, why would I ever take X when Y is available? A good balanced game, when someone asks that, there should be an answer that says, well, because Y is better in this situation, or because X has a big drawback, and that's this. That's sometimes kind of difficult to do as a designer, is to see that on the outside, and that's what a lot of playtesting is for, to help unearth some of these issues, or possibly things that stand out as not issues, you know, things that are too good, that kind of thing. But one of the reasons that sparked this thought process and why I dug this shirt out today is because I'm not going to throw the channel under the bus, but I was watching another YouTube channel about specifically about 40K, Warhammer 40,000, and they were talking about a faction within that game, and their arguments, their discussion, rather than talking about how cool everything is, or talking about the benefits of each part of this army or this scenario or whatever, they spent almost all their time discussing why you never leave home without like 2 things, why you would never take these things, basically telling players that this book was designed badly, you know, this army was designed badly, and you should take advantage of that, and don't ever take any of this, always take this. And it got me as a designer so upset that I started ranting to my friends online, but it got me so upset because Games Workshop as a company are huge. They're monstrous. They're amazing. I actually would love to be able to work for them and be able to help design and make awesome things for their various games, to help, you know, round out some of the cool canon and bring back some things that have been missing in cool ways, so people go, oh, that's fantastic. But it's, you know, it's a monumental situation to try and get in over there, and I'm not moving to England anytime soon. So it is very disheartening and upsetting when someone basically says, hey, the giant in the industry, the people that are so, I'm gonna give you guys a little hint. Games Workshop as a company they are within the game industry. Now, I know you're going to be saying, oh, Hasbro's bigger. That's true, but Hasbro also does, toys and movies, and there's all kinds of other things that Hasbro has their fingers in. When it comes to a strictly, generally speaking, a strictly hobby and game company, Games Workshop is so far ahead financially than anyone else in the industry that the gap between first and second place can fit like second, third, and fourth place. It's an enormous, like, there's always people that are like, oh, my game, this game's gonna give GW a run for their money. That's, I hate to say it, it's not true. There is such a huge difference between any of the other companies that exist and what Games Workshop has done over the last 30 years that they would have to do something astronomically bad to knock themselves down a gigantic peg, and then whoever's in second place do something so astronomically good that they sweep in and take advantage of that momentary lapse to be able to give them any kind of competition. That's just, I'm not trying to be, the evil empire. I'm far from it. I think Games Workshop's awesome. Hang on, take a drink. I think Games Workshop's awesome. I love them, and I love their stuff. It's just the realism behind it is you aren't going to see them topple unless something honestly cataclysmic happens to them from within the company. For instance, a few years back, some people might remember, I almost just called it by the slang term. It was called Finecast. They tried their own kind of resin plastic thing, and generally speaking, it flopped. Most people, the term that most people used was failcast, as a slang term for it. I mean, hell, I almost just did that by accident, and I actually didn't hate that as much, and it was still just like habit. But Finecast was something that they tried to do, and it was a big chunk of time before there were a lot of people that were mad at Games Workshop, and they took a pretty serious dip. That was the year, I think, that their profits, now again, mind you, their profits were only in like the $2 or $3 million instead of the 7 or 8 like normal. So it's still, again, like I said, that was like their biggest mistake lately, and it didn't kill them. It didn't, I mean, it hurt, I'm sure, but so when I listened to this podcast about talking about a 40K faction, and they're just basically highlighting the fact that this faction is so poorly designed that there are units no one should ever take, and it's not even an opinion factor. It's just, as far as they're concerned, like they can show you the math. This guy costs more and does less. This guy costs less and does 10 times more. Like, they're just basically showing you, unless it's personal opinion, like, oh, I like this model, or oh, I've got this narrative I want to support. When it comes down to the rules of the game, there is just, in this particular faction, there are just units that are better and units that are worse. And this podcast was highlighting it. And that made me so mad. Mad as a gamer, because these guys are basically teaching new gamers not to play by their heart, not to follow what they want to do, but you gotta follow the numbers, you gotta win, and that's not great. That creates what we have so cordially called WAC, WAAC, win at all costs. And that creates that whack mentality that if I look at someone and say, oh, your army is terrible because you've got all these things in there, don't you want to win? Like, that's awful. And so that's part of what made me so upset at the podcast. But then also, and on a designer level, it made me so mad at Games Workshop because they have all of the money. They have all of the time. They have near limitless resources if they wanted to. There's freelancers out there that would gladly make stuff for you that is balanced. The fact that this got through their editing process, it got through their playtesters, it got through their designers made this thing, and the editors looked at it, like the canon editors said, okay, cool, and then it went to one more step and it went to the playtesters, and the playtesters let it through. There's obviously a problem with this, with the process. Or with maybe they need more playtesters or different kinds of playtesters, or maybe they need somebody on staff to look at things and go, "Hey, your boat is rocked." You know, like something is not coming together. Whatever the case may be, is that this made it through and is now part of the game scene until it gets redone, like a new edition of that book, of that faction. We are simply, as players, we just have to deal with it. And as gamers, we have to deal with the people who go, "Hey, did you hear Podcast X?" Which, I don't know if that's actually a podcast. I'm just using it as a term. You know, did you hear Podcast X said that if I take this, and this, my army's unstoppable? And that's what ends up happening. You know, I've said it before. Normally when I may have a few drinks in me and I get a little upset about things, is that a lot of times internet lists, internet gaming, as in, like, we're not actually playing the game, we're just going to basically tell everybody, hey, this is how you should do it, is the bane of fun game days. Because I remember, before I don't care, I'm gonna digress, I'm allowed. It's my show, damn it. I remember going to a convention. This was back when I was with Privateer Press. And the tournament was like 40 people. You know, it was a pretty big tournament for the time for War Machine. And the top 5 places, 4 of them were the exact same army, not same faction. You know, that's weird enough, but specifically the same 7 figures in each one of these armies. And then the 5th one was the same army, just with like 1 model flipped out. And when I asked any of these people, hey, why this? They all said, I went to tactics.com, or I went to Daka, or I went to the forums, or whatever. They went to somewhere on the internet, and someone was saying, this is the most broken combo, this will win you your games. And so, the top 5 players have the exact same army, and it just comes down to the luck of the dice. No tactics, no strategy. Because even on the internet, it tells you what to do with those 7 models. And if you do these things, you win. I remember years later going to, I was at the Michigan Open, I think. I went to go run a bunch of Dark Age. And I swung through, so nostalgia always gets me. I swung through the Privateer Press section, the War Mahorde's army, or War Mahorde's section. And it was huge. They had a bunch of people playing. And while I was there, I looked at like the beginning of someone's game. You know, they had all their stuff was all set up, and one guy moved a model, and the next guy moved a model and threw some dice. I don't exactly know what it was for, because I wasn't 100% listening, but either it missed or it didn't cause enough damage or something happened, and he looked at his opponent and said, "Oh man, you got me. I concede." And it was honestly, it was at that moment that I put in the tournament concession rules for Dark Age. Like that, like immediately went to my phone and was like, okay, we got to make sure that we put that in the tournament packet, because I think scooping, which is a pleasant word of saying giving up and taking your models and going home and leaving the table, I think it's unsportsmanly. There's something to be said for if the game has been going on a long time and you're kind of in a stalemate, or you know for a fact that you're, you know, oh, you've got me, there's only 10 minutes left, let's start cleaning up. But there's a huge difference between, oh, I can't win, so I'm not going to play. And that's what this guy did. Basically, he threw his dice didn't come up right, and because the internet tells him that his combo, if it fails, my opponent's combo is going to beat me, and I'm going to lose, so there's just no reason in playing. And that, it boggled my mind. I was like, well, what if the other guy rolls snake eyes? You know, like, dice are involved. It's not like it's a game of simply, my army is bigger than yours, now that you roll, oh, you rolled a 3 and I win. Like, it doesn't work that way. And his opinion was, his retort was, well, we've played, you know, I've played against his army like 10 times before. I've played against that list like 10 times before, and if I don't kill that guy on turn 1, I lose every time. And that's what I talk about when I talk about whack players. Players that his opponent, this is a tournament. You know, he probably paid to be there. He definitely traveled to be there. He bought a hotel room. You know, like. It's a matter of, by scooping up your models, yeah, you give the guy the win. Woo, the win! But you've taken an hour and a half, 2 hours of gameplay away from him. He probably wanted to play the game. Hopefully it wasn't just about, you know, chalking that W up. It was getting to move his models around and, you know, see what happens. Play the game. Because if it was just a matter of wins and losses and it didn't, and everything else, half of the games we play would just come down to 1 die roll. Hey, did you roll higher than me? Oh man, okay, cool, good job, you won. But what is that all about? And that to me points out, I'm getting around back to the back to the reason why this is important. That to me points out that if your game can be that scripted, that told you so, that infuriatingly formulaic, then there's a balance issue. It should never come down to the fact that, oh, I failed one thing and now I lose. Or, oh, now, again, some people might look that way in chess. Well, that's true. But chess isn't a war game. Chess isn't a board game. Chess is its own game. You know, like, and if you designed a game to be that way, think about it if you're talking about D&D or any other role-playing game. The first scenario, let's say you get in there, you get in your first combat, and you miss your first arrow, and you're like, oh god, I'm dead. There's no way. I'm just the worst. Or you go and you roll your dice and you get less than maximum damage. You're like, oh man, if I didn't kill him on the first hit, I'm never going to. It's just silly. And that's an issue. That's an issue with how the game is designed. And I know that they went in later on and they tried to make things better, and they tried to change lists up, and, you know, oh, if you take this guy, you get free infantry, and, you know, they smoosh some things around and move stuff around. But last I heard, I mean, again, I don't play War of Hordes anymore, but last I heard is that it's still a checkmate based game, which means you kill one, effectively you kill one model and you win, as long as it's that particular model, and it is still a very internet combo based game, where it's a lot of, oh, this is what you're taking, or they've all got funny names, you know, funny at 40, so I'm going to digress momentarily. Same thought process, different company. A few editions ago, Warhammer 40K, there were several lists, builds, or parts of builds that people would bring, and it was called like the Leaf Blower, and that's just a bunch of flyers that fly in and blow all the infantry away. There was something like I can't even remember because I hated it so much. But funny, kitschy names for things in the army, or things in the game that are not tactics but list building Like, it's not even a strategy or a tactic to be able to build a list. You can build a list. Or you can go online and read one. Blech, gross. And that's... That again shows an issue with the balance of the game. If you can put those things together and it becomes the norm all of the time. Now there's something, combos are normal, especially if it's something that's been designed to be a combo. For instance, in my buddy's army is the was the Adeptus Mechanicus, and in the AdMech book there is a type of soldier that if he is within 6 inches of this other type of soldier, this type of soldier rerolls all of his rolls to hit. That is a combo, but that's not so much of a combo as it is that was designed into this figure. This figure was built to modify this figure, and hopefully it was built into his points and things to do that. What's a goofy internet combo is like, oh, well, if you take the 2 guys from this list, 3 guys from this list, this psychic power, and they all stay within a 6-inch bubble of each other all the time. You roll 76 dice, re-rolling 1s and 2s. Like, that's when it's that sort of thing. That's not a, oh, the game designers thought about all of this stuff together and made a rule for it. That is, the players have figured out that if I mix and match these 5 things and make the proper amount of soup, that I will be able to do this astronomically weird thing. And even as a game designer who hopes that we try and find as much balance as possible, you can't help it. Sometimes it gets in the hands of the players, and they figure something out that you didn't see or the playtesters didn't see, and you got to kind of shrug it off. And I think that's where the difference lies between a simple math problem, where it's this guy's cheaper and does better in every way, and these 3 units, when they work in unison this way, this happens, and it's really hard to stop. Option 1, playtesters should have pointed that out and said, this guy is way too good for his points. You can either make him more expensive or tone down the ridiculous stuff that he's doing. And in option 2, the playtesters probably saw one piece of that puzzle, and that probably got thrown into the notes as, this is a cool combo. It didn't come up as, oh, that's a giant loophole, or a 3-banger that we need to make sure that, somehow gets limited, because you just didn't, sometimes you don't see these things. Sometimes it doesn't come up. And I think that's, as a designer, that is what scares me the most when I build things. When I design rules or cards or whatever, for whatever it happens to be, prestige classes for D&D, or new units for an existing miniature game, or back when I was doing Dark Age, entire books full of units. It is kind of, that's the sort of the scary factor, is the last thing I want to do is the last thing I want to do is design something that becomes part of one of those 3-banger chains, or the playtesters see something and go, well, that's the coolest thing ever. Of course it's going to be in every army all the time. I want people to want to take everything, or at least at some point take everything. I want someone to, when they read that new subclass in my DM's Guild thing coming out later this year, plug, I want them, when they read that, to go, oh man, I can't wait to play in a D&D game because I want to see if I can do this. Or a DM gets a hold of it and goes, that is going to be my new NPC. Like, that's what I want. I want people to be excited to use these things. I want the Warzone community to see the subtle changes that we've made to how some things work and go, oh damn, I can't wait to use those guys. Or when they see how the game functions, they go, oh man, I am definitely going to add a shinobi to my, I'm going to add a couple of shinobis to my Mishima force. Like, I want you want people to be excited about what you're creating, not because it's going to win every game for them, but because it's going to be fun to play, and they will hopefully figure out how to make that win their games. You don't want it to be a no-brainer. I mean, now, obviously, some things are... especially in a game like 40K, if I've got a tank, and that tank has a gun, and the gun is super cool, it probably fills one role. That role is shooting things and blowing them up. It makes sense. Same to be said for just about anything else. If I make a D&D subclass that is all about wrestling, and someone takes that subclass, I'm probably going to know pretty quickly what their character does when they say, "Oh, I took the Arms of Steel subclass," which is not a real thing, but and you go, "Oh, okay, you're a wrestler," because if I go, "Oh, okay, you're a wrestler," and he goes, "No, I am a map maker, a cartographer," I'm gonna go, "What?" Because they're doing something a little weird and different. Could be super fun, but definitely weird and different. It is my role and my responsibility to try and come up with even game design, and I think that is one of the things that sometimes pops up in conversations about games, especially at the table, especially with role-playing games. Is you might be discussing something, and one player goes, "Hey, can I do this?" And the game master goes, "No." And it isn't necessarily the game master being a jerk. I mean, it could be, but it's probably because he needs to be able to keep the balance of his game. Very recently, there is a TikTok famous creator who does a lot of D&D stuff. It's a Canadian guy named something Rogue. One old rogue or bearded rogue or something. I don't remember. Either way, he's hilarious. He's super funny. He's a comedian more than anything. But one of the things he recently posted about, and I had to fight my thumbs to not get in there and ridicule him, is in his game he allowed, or at least as far as like the skit is concerned, he allowed what was called the peasant cannon. And the peasant cannon is you make friends with a local community, and you line up all of the peasants within 5 feet of each other. You make a giant line of peasants angled at like the army or the dragon or whatever, or the enemy castle, whatever you're looking to do some hurt to. And then at the very end of that line, you send word first down the line, because it's all free action to talk, and you tell all of the peasants to make a contingency action of, "I accept the boulder," and hand it to the guy next to me. And then the very guy at the end, the last guy in line, his contingency action is, "When I get the boulder, I throw it at the bad guy, at the castle, at the target." And depending on how long you make this line, what the peasant cannon is because a combat round in D&D is only 6 seconds long. I can't believe I'm telling you this. Because a combat round in D&D is only 6 seconds long, and a contingency action happens when it is triggered, irrelevant to anything else going around it. So 100 peasants, each 5 feet apart, taking their contingency actions in order, because it is, "I get the boulder, I pass the boulder, I get the boulder, I pass the boulder," down the line, is you've basically created a medieval railgun, because this boulder travels, so you got 200 peasants, it travels 1,000 feet in 6 seconds, only to be aimed by the last guy at the target. And what this peasant cannon was is basically using physics. He found out that this boulder is now traveling at astronomical speeds because of the whole contingency action, because of using the game rules to break physics. You've created this peasant railgun that shoots this boulder, and you're supposed to basically say, well, boulder traveling that fast is going to smash the walls, or it's going to be a brutal, deadly thing. Again, I know it's a skit. I know he was just kidding. And any game that would allow this, I would look at the DM as a player and go, what are you doing? Because you just can't open that can of worms. Because you start letting players figure out the physics behind, breaking the physics of D&D so the rules don't matter. And that's exactly what happens. The rules won't matter. You'll have utter anarchy and everything will fall apart. That's what a good balance is. For instance, I had been in a game before that there was a book adventure, so a published adventure, that one of the traps in the adventure was this pit that was filled with little metal, as they said, wrought iron spheres, like the size of a baseball, each one weighing like 10 pounds. And one of the players figured out how many, because the trap, after it's sprung, these little spheres drop from the ceiling, doing a bunch of damage. It's basically like giant lead, like wrought iron hail that falls from the ceiling, and they all roll down into this little pit area, making it extremely difficult to get out of, possibly burying somebody, that sort of thing. And one of the players said, okay, how big is the pit? And they gave, DM gave him dimensions. Player goes, okay, and how heavy are they? They're this much. All right, I'm going to start filling my bags with these wrought iron balls. And most of us were like, okay, well, that's fine. He's obviously going to probably use it to throw at fairy creatures or whatever. He'll have some kind of use for it at some point. And he calculated how many of these little like 5-pound spheres would fill the pit by calculating the volume and the size and all that stuff. Super math nerdy thing to do, but then he gave him a number of these spheres. And the number of these spheres, he then was like, okay, well, then it says here they're 5 pounds apiece. Okay, multiply that by 5. So he had somewhere in the neighborhood of 500 tons of these little spheres or whatever. And then he goes, okay, I'm going to put them in the wagons, and we're going to take them to the nearest metropolis, like to the nearest big city, and I'm going to sell it to the blacksmiths union at half normal resource price. And the DM was like, oh, well, that's awfully nice of you. Okay, cool. And it ended up being something, because like wrought unworked iron is like a gold piece a pound, or like a silver piece a pound or something like that in back in AD&D days. And so he had calculated how much this sale was, and it was like hundreds of thousands of gold pieces worth of lame metal that was part of a trap. And while the players, we all were like, holy crap, that's insane. Are you going to share? You share the wealth. The DM was like, oh my god, you outsmarted me, and let him have the money. And that's where I believe you need to step in and not as a DM, not let your players walk all over you. While this is an amazing idea and time consuming and really brilliant, instead of giving him 500,000 gold for it or whatnot, what I would have probably done is, as the blacksmiths union said, hey, if you give us all this iron, we will make masterwork items for all of you, or we will repair your goods from now until the end of time. We'll make a statue of you in the Times Square, the town square. Whatever you had to do to avoid breaking your game's economy because of this clever trap incident thing, instead of, because not to mention, is your blacksmiths union going to have 1 million plus gold pieces just hanging around? Probably not. Like that's a freakish amount of money. That's a dragon's horde that they've just got in their coffer box. That's silly. That's not gonna be the case. And as a DM, you've got to find that nice balance. You want to award them for doing something cool, like, oh, dude, that's really smart. But you also don't want to ruin your game by letting them get away with murder. Not literally, although sometimes literally. So you find that happy medium, whereas the union's like, yeah, we'd love the metal. We'll do some awesome stuff for you, possibly, some like for life kind of deals and arrangements, and that's always neat. I know player characters love to have that kind of thing where they go, hey, in the city of Fifth, I never have to pay for another room and board because I saved the town's innkeeper. Or in the case of the union thing, it's if we ever need anything repaired or made from metal, if we go to this place, they will do it for free. That's the kind of thing that players are going to remember. They're going to make those notes. They're going to write that stuff down. And it's going to be a lot cooler than just, here's a bunch of money. You broke the bank. You got one over on us. You need to be able to balance that out. And I think that where you can't really do that with a miniatures game or a board game, you can't really compromise once the game's been made. All of that compromising comes in during playtesting, comes in during the design and development. You've got to realize that if something gets highlighted as being too good or not good enough or a no-brainer one way or the other, that maybe as a designer you should step in and either tone it down or spruce it up or tone everything else. Again, goes down to that whole if everything's broken, nothing is. Make everybody else as cool as that. Whatever you have to do in order for the game to feel like it flows the way it's supposed to, and not any one particular facet is either doing all the work or none of the work. That's basically, in my opinion, how to achieve game balance when you're designing. Is you want every aspect of the game to have a reason to exist. You never want something to just be superfluous, where it's like, well, why do we do that? Because it's fun. Everything needs to be part of the game in some fashion, or able to be made part of the game in some fashion. And everything that you do needs to be part of a sliding scale of risk versus reward, threat versus versus benefit, and where you feel it needs to be. Because if your players are gonna realize, the people who pick this game up, if it's a board game and one of the factions in the board game, one of the players, our first 5 games, the Klingons always won. Well, the Star Trek game needs some work. There needs to be something to put in, and hopefully in the next, either FAQ or errata, or the next expansion comes out, they will find a way to either mitigate that brokenness, or they'll just straight up errata it and say, hey, we screwed up. The Klingons are too good. Lower all of their attack values by 1. Or whatever you have to do. I know as a designer, it is really hard to admit you've made mistakes. During the playtest, it's real easy to get super defensive. Be like, no, I need it to do this because that's what I wanted it to do. It can still do that. You just have to figure out a way to make it do that and not break the game. These are the things that we have to deal with. These are the things that you have to do when you're making a game. Unless you specifically, like, your game is designed to be insanity. It is designed to be everybody breaks the rules all the time. You manipulate reality as a character trait. If everybody can do it, then you're setting the stage for what you want your game to be. If you've created it so only one guy can do it and one player can do it, you are setting yourself up for the one-man show where everybody basically just watches what this guy does because they can't do anything that he does. It's just how it is, and you don't want that. You want everybody to have fun. You want everybody to be part of it. You want everybody to be excited to be playing. Not, all right, Bill beat all the bad guys. because you took the broken class. It's what we want as designers. We want to avoid. We don't want broken classes. We don't want useless classes. We want everything to have a reason if you, as a player, sees that reason and wants to make it so. It's our job to make your decision make sense within the game and also make it still fun for you and everybody else in the game. So that's really all it is. I know I've been running my mouth for a while. I got a little heated there about the GW thing, but so that's how it is. That's pretty much my spiel on game balance. Is try and design rules that hopefully everybody will enjoy, and everybody will find reasons to use in some fashion, and then when they're being used, they're not robbing the fun from someone else, because that's at the end of the day, that's what we do. So you know how it is. I'm gonna go have a great weekend. You have a great weekend. Smile, be safe, and more importantly, go out and have some fun. Play some games. See you next week.